I don't need a hard copy of the resolution.
Oh,
So what is this on number 3 now?
basically, I have put waste management on notice that what was happening, we had last week's recycle on the street, and we still got some on the street, so I told them, I said, if you're not done by end of day on Friday, we will go against your performance bond, and we will hire someone to come in and catch you up. And so that's where that's kind of their little, they started like, oh, either of them, basically, what that allows us to do is to go without having to call special call meetings.
Okay.
And
It
just,
doesn't have to be specific on who or can you.
no, that's just saying MRS war cards, one of those. If you're just basically allowing us to waive the bidding, we're basically
Okay,
just voting
all right.
on just waiving it.
Okay, thank you. It's marvelous.
We're just trying to put them on notice.
There's that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, it was, I just got plugged late.
Are you ready? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the June 20th, 2024 Finance Meeting at 5:30. Welcome, all of you. We're going to call this to order. At this time, I will yield the floor to Chairman Westcott.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everyone. Item number 1 on our agenda this evening is an appropriation request from the City General Fund Reserve, the sum of $7,842 to be used as a pass-through of grant proceeds to reimburse the purchase of EMS equipment and supplies. What is the will of the Finance Committee on number 1?
Move to forward to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
Is there a second to that? Seconds. Any discussion on item number 1? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is consideration of a reimbursement request from Main Street, Russellville for the first quarter 2024 expenses in the amount of $15,000. What is the will of the Finance Committee regarding item number 2?
I move to forward item number 2 to the full council with a recommendation of due pass.
Okay. Second. Is any discussion on item number 2?
Have all the questions from last week been answered?
Yes, we've had a discussion early. I've also spoken to the Municipal League. I do believe that if it's submitted in the future with the itemization that's required under the contract, that could alleviate a lot of questions that questioning of it. The Municipal League was concerned about it as well, about that, and also recommended that providing documentation so that these payments can be more or less identified as being contracted city services or not.
Would there be some time that possibly Danielle from Main Street and maybe the mayor and Trey could get together and discuss what exactly is going to be asked of them in the future for their reimbursement so that we can all be on the same page next time?
I believe we can make ourselves available to Ms. Hausnick at any point in time.
Is there any further discussion on item number 2? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is consideration of a resolution that would waive competitive bidding and authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to sign an agreement with either LRS South LLC or CARDS, C-A-R-D-S, River Valley Incorporated, for temporary trash collection and disposal for residential solid waste services. What is the will of the Finance Committee regarding item number 3?
I make a motion to move to the full council for approval recommendation.
There's a second by Mr. Olson. Any discussion on item number 3? I see this is sponsored by Mayor Fred Teague, and I do yield the floor at this time.
Okay, this is a situation that may or may not happen. As you know, if you live in Russellville and you're not living under a rock, we've had some, the situation has escalated in the last week or so with Waste Management. I did call them into my office and put them on notice verbally, and I have contacted them in writing that if by end of day tomorrow they were not caught up with the City of Russellville recycle and solid waste, that we would move forward in with legal in the legal process and go against their performance bond. By doing so, we can hire someone to come in and supplement their services so that we can act on behalf of our citizens in a manner that will get their services as scheduled. This may or may not happen. Basically, what I'm asking here is if we have to do this, then we can waive competitive bidding and move forward in a quicker manner with either of these entities and not have to call you as a council back in for a special called meeting.
If the price is, what they charge is more than what Waste Management charges, do they back charge that to Waste Management? Waste Management pays?
Mr. Smith?
Way I would recommend, or I think I have discussed with the mayor, is that we need to get, if we go against the performance bond with the problems with Waste Management, we would draw first and then reimburse after we have money in hand from the performance bond, so that we're not paying it and then waiting for Waste Management. And then if we pay too much, we'll give back the excess back to Waste Management.
If we draw too much, then we can give back to the performance bond. But basically, we would not, we would not be out of pocket money. We're gonna make sure of that. Like I say, they have, I think this is the move, because at this point in time, the way the contract reads, we can fine them maybe up to $300 a week, which is really not that large of a fine. But when you talk about going against them on their performance bond, that's the gift that keeps on giving. So if you go to get a performance bond somewhere else, then they're dinged on that, and they're like, hey, why did they go against you on this? What was your situation? So I think hopefully this got their attention. Now, with that being said, we are still, we're waiting. I know Mr. Smith has been in communication with Cards and working to get the contract ironed out. And as soon as we can possibly get them in place, Waste Management is very amicable of letting them take over the reins quicker than, or sooner than later, because they're not necessarily wanting to be able to stay as our provider through the end of the year. So I can foresee us making something happen. I would like to think by September.
Question, so we've got this resolution, and going forward with that, I'm assuming we have a plan for operationalizing this, because finding a new hauler, new people out there picking up trash is, I'm assuming we have a plan for that.
As far as what
Well, we're catching up, but it's not going to be Waste Management catching
Yes.
up. It's going to be people that don't know the routes, do not.
they're going to have to work with Waste Management they will be working with Waste Management. It's not like we're just going to send random people out to just
Okay,
go.
then we're
to this
confident
neighborhood.
that'll be a good
Yes,
relationship.
yes.
Okay.
I had Andrew, I can't say his last name, I'm sorry, he's from out of Missouri, who came in this week. We talked. He agreed if they were not picked up by end of day, he would work with us in any way possible needed to make sure that our citizens were taken care of. This, like I say, this is a situation that may or may not happen. It's basically, Trey, Mr. Smith and I felt like this would be the best way to go ahead and have this competitive bidding waived in case we do, so that we don't have to, especially if we do it around the 4th of July, we don't have to call you in for a special called meeting.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want egg on our face if we've sent the cavalry out and then.
they will have to work together.
Doesn't pick it up either.
Well,
so-
there'll have to be a legal agreement between the two of them, so that LRS or cards can actually pick up their carts. There has to be an agreement between the two of them, and they have assured me that they would sign whatever needed to be able to make that happen. It has happened in another city in Arkansas, and so that's the reason we know that it's doable. I spoke with the mayor in actually Whitehall that has had the situation happen. So.
Mayor, I do have a question regarding this document here on page 2 of 4, under section 3. It is anticipated that the costs associated with this agreement are as follows. How firm are those rates between the two parties and the city? Is it anticipated, certainly I assume by the city, are these rates also anticipated by LRS and cards?
These rates were given by both companies.
Okay.
And the rates from cards actually just came in
10 minutes ago.
10 minutes ago. So this is the first time that I've actually laid eyes on those rates. So these were both given in writing by both companies. So they are firm, and like I say, they would be willing to enter into a contract for those rates. So, and those were the rates that we would use to make, to make that draw from that performance bond based on anticipated usage. Like I say, this is a situation that may or may not happen, but we wanted to move forward with it. And sorry for any confusion that it's causing anyone.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. So if Waste Management has not picked up and is current with all the solid waste and recycling in our contract by the end of the day tomorrow,
Yes, that's our agreement.
then you could go out with either LRS or cards to have them come and supplement?
Yes, we could. We've put them on notice that we could because they are in breach of contract.
And then we would, in financing the supplement, we would get those funds from the performance bond that Waste Management has to cover that, so it's not going to be any extra out of the
Yes.
city.
Our first move would, on Monday morning, Mr. Smith and I would have to contact, and tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith. Our first move would be on Monday morning. If we feel the need to move forward, we would contact the carrier for that performance bond and let them know that Waste Management, their client, is in breach of contract, and we would like to move forward in a remedy. And then we would be basically, they would lead us and guide us through how that would work. So I do not anticipate us, I'm not going to say I'm not going to anticipate, we're not going to enter into a contract unless we have funds prepaid so that we will not incur a cost for the city of Russellville. I will say that we will not enter into any contract that we do not have prepaid, either by performance bond or by Waste Management, in order to be able to find a remedy. Does that sound accurate, Mr. Smith?
Okay, and one more question. I understand that, the penalty in the contract is $300 a week, which is negligible for Waste Management. The performance bond is how we're going to go through and do this. Is this an either-or thing?
We can do both, and I actually am anticipating we have to gather the information from, according to the contract, I have to gather the information from the contractor themselves on what they're behind, and that is it is not an either or, it is a both.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I can't say this. The penalty is, I am moving forward with that. The performance bond it may happen or may not happen. We don't know that. But my intentions are to move forward with the penalty on both of them. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, understand that.
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But the fact that we've had recycle sitting on our curb for over a week, that's penalty worthy. So I mean
Right.
that is without
Well,
a
in
doubt.
some
we
neighborhoods
can
have
do
had
that.
trash as
Yes,
well
as well,
for
so-
longer than that.
yes.
If our calls are correct.
Yes.
How far back can we go?
I would think, I think last week was the first time that because what they have been doing recently is they've been hitting Friday has been, you might be a day late, and you can't penalize for that day late because they have to pick it up in the next day. Now, Friday, if you pick it up on Monday, Saturday, and Sunday, do not count. So at this point, from the previous week, they were behind more than one day. And so we can go back to that point and penalize. So,
I mean, it would seem to me from the calls that we've been getting that they are well more than 1 week from being more than one day behind.
Like I say, I don't, you have to,
And I understand,
contract
I mean,
reads
you
that
know,
we have to get the information
and
from the
whether-
contractor, so.
And whether we hit them for $300, we hit them for
Yeah.
$900,
Yeah,
they're
it's-
not really going to care.
Yes.
And I think that's really part of the problem with the way that the relationship has gone. It's gone to a point where they just don't care.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Smith has got a solid contract coming up for the new, he has done a good job, and so hopefully we will see a new solid waste contractor on behalf of our citizens soon.
Is there any further discussion on item number 3?
It's not on item number 3, but I guess it would kind of go hand in hand with this. When we were going through the bid review process, Cards, who won the bid, made it clear that they would be able to start sooner. So are we going to try to factor that into the contract that we're bringing, as you said, sooner as opposed to later?
Yes, I think Cards is working. As soon as we get a signed contract with them, they're going to try to get themselves ready as quickly as possible. Waste Management is very amicable to that. Mr. Smith is already prepared to go to Waste Management, modify our contract so that we don't have a 60-day, I think it's a 60-day parting with them, so that, and they are welcoming of that, because at this point in time, Waste Management is sending trucks from Van Buren to Russellville, and they're sending trucks from Springdale to Van Buren. It's chaos. And so they're ready. Now, at the same time, we also have to remember that even after we are not in contract with Waste Management is still part of the Russellville community, because
most
they still have commercial services and everything. So they will still be a part of our community, and their workers are working as hard as they can and doing the best they can. So I definitely do not want anyone to think that we're by any means saying anything negative about the men and women that are out there working and doing things, especially in this heat. So,
No,
I don't
it
think
has nothing to do
I don't
with-
think it's the intent of anyone on this council to say that.
No, this has nothing to do with the guys picking up the trash. This has everything to do with the people coordinating
yeah.
the trash pickup.
Okay. Mr. Westman.
Mayor, to your knowledge, in these rates, I'm going to go back again to page 204. On those rates, this is per truck and driver and helper, is that right?
Yes, sir. That's how I read it.
On any given day or week, how many do they expect to be used at these rates? Are they talking 10 trucks a day or
No.
3 trucks a day?
I
or-
would anticipate if we had to have someone come in and supplement, that you would only be talking about 1 truck, honestly, because your waste management trucks will be running. But if we hypothetically, if we had to come back in, if we had a situation like this with recycling getting left on the ground again for longer than it should, then you would have 1 truck come in and try to pick you up. I don't know that LRS or Cards is going to be able to just throw multiple trucks at you, because they're going to have they already have the people that are working their routes, but they have informed us that they could get us a truck if needed. So, like I say, this is I know it's a lot of discussion for a possibility.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the number of trucks based on these rates changes your out-of-pocket expense
Yes.
exponentially. And so it's good to at least be aware of what we could face or what could be faced going into it. That's
Thank
all.
you, sir.
Any further discussion on item number 3?
I'd say that we're going to be able to see, was it the orange team potentially with Cards in action? The supplemental team, Team Orange, or whatever they call them.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Mayor, to my knowledge, that's the last on our agenda. I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you so much. We will adjourn this meeting and come back at 6 a.m. or 6 o'clock for full council.